Hey everybody, today we are going to be reviewing the AnyCubic Kobra Max 3 combo. This thing is huge. It is a really big 3D printer. As you can see right here, I mean, it's 16.5 by 16.5, 19 inches tall of just printing awesomeness. I've got the ACE material changer on there, and overall this was a pretty good deal. One of the coolest features is a quick release nozzle. It has no cables that you have to disconnect. It's one lever, it slides out, slides back in. I'll show you guys that later. That was basically the reason I bought this printer, is I wanted something that I knew I could swap out the nozzle easily. Downside, they only sell a 0.4 nozzle right now, but I bought some extra nozzles and drill bits, and so I'll fix that soon enough. Either way, I'm going to go over the unboxing, some ideas, and my take on some changes I wanted to have for this. One change is that I don't like where their camera mount is normally. So their camera mount originally was right here on the side of the x-axis, and that's a terrible location because all you can see is a very low angle of what you're printing, which is useless. Here you can see how useless it really is. Plus, when you have bigger prints, you can see that it just cuts off the entire right side. Versus, I moved my camera, right now it's just on a box, but it's, you know, probably a foot out further, and then about the same distance, you know, from where it was mounted before, and then about 6 inches up, and it's a much better angle. It's fixed in place. Yeah, you have to change it if you're going to print anything more than 12 inches or 14 inches high. You might have to move it higher up, but I'd much rather do that and have a better view than the view I was getting so low before. Look how much better this position is. Beautiful. The other thing is, I think I can make a bracket. There's a little screw hole right down here, and I think that you'll be able to mount a bracket for the camera there. So I'm going to work on a bracket, then mount that camera up. I'm also going to work on a spit bucket for the filament changer. Right now I'm using a box, but it doesn't always make it in. And I'll be posting the files at some point for the spit bucket and the profile for the modified 0.6 and 0.8 millimeter nozzles when I get that all finished, and this camera bracket. So all that stuff eventually, probably in another video, I'll just demonstrate that and then post those files once they're ready. So I just got the print head mounted, and it was a little harder than I thought it was to put the 4 screws in. I should have been smarter. There is 2 screws that you can mount at the top here. One here, one right here, and I should have partially screwed in some threads first, because then you can just rest the whole print head on there and then do the lower screws here and here without having to mess with the head trying to fall off. So next time, now that I know that's the case, I'll do that. Pet peeve of mine, people that leave the screen protectors on. Although it does make sense to leave it on until you're done doing things that could scratch it. Alright, so one thing you're going to want to check is that these screws here are actually tightened down, because just offhand the whole bed is moving on me right now. So you're going to want to get your screwdriver out and tighten those up with whatever size you need. It's pretty small. It looks like it's a M2. This is one large magnetic bed. Okay. Ah, that's much better. Nothing's moving now. Time to put this massive print sheet back on. Line it up. Here's a little print tip wiper, and there's another little alignment feature here to help you get it lined up. Let's see, one side PLA, ABS, PETG. Other side, just another texture. Overall, not too hard to slap on and off. So just like any printer now, it auto calibrates for level on the bed. And then it's time to print your camera brackets. Just shove it in there. And then if you want, you can mount it on the side like you're supposed to, although I don't really like that location. Now firmware needed to get updated as well. And something that'll happen is it might just fail, in which case just restart your machine and you'll be fine. Of course, then it's time to print your inaugural benchy. Alright, so one thing I did is I pulled out the USB drive when it was printing a benchy, and it completely stopped my benchy. Gave me this code 10135 USB stick not connected. And this is when I had printed via Wi-Fi, so I'm surprised. Maybe it put the information on the USB stick and then was printing off the USB stick, so maybe there has to be one there permanently. I don't know. Very odd. Hopefully it'll keep printing my benchy. Alright, we're going to see what happens. It's going to try and resume. Well, it seems to be going. So after a benchy, it was time to put this thing through its paces and do a 5-day print job with a 19.5-inch vase in vase mode. It took forever. And the problem was, as it got taller and taller, since it wasn't stiff and only one layer thick, it started shaking and you started to see these harmonic lines. But at that point, it was just better to let it go, and eventually it would just finish printing on top of its weird positions. I cannot believe this thing can print. Shaking so much. So removal of the tip's pretty easy. You just remove that cover. There's a lever right here. Make sure this is cold. Flip the lever up, and then you can kind of pull on this a little bit, but essentially it just slides right out just like that. And it's got a Teflon sleeve on the inside there, and it's a pretty simple design. So hopefully they'll start making different OEM versions of this and hardened versions of this pretty soon. I'm going to drill out a couple extra I got to different sizes and make some profiles. But installation, you just gotta make sure there's no other filament in the way. And so you basically, chop that off, slide it back in, make sure it's tight, flick the lever back down, and then that's it. There's nothing else to it. I don't know if this is the correct distance. This kind of moves a little bit. I'll have to play with it and find out, but otherwise this guy just goes on like that, and that's it. Alright, so it's been about a week and I finally got this thing fully printed. It is huge. I have no idea why it is lopsided like it is on that side and not on this side. It is very, very flexible. As you saw, it was basically shaking back and forth, and when I tried to stiffen it up, it essentially started whiffing in the air because it wasn't used to where it should have been printing. It was used to where it was harmonically ringing and printing, and so I quickly had to undo that before it got further than one layer. But I mean, you can see the print quality got pretty bad towards the top, but it was just beautiful towards the bottom. Overall, it looks great. If I were to do something this tall again, instead of it being a single wall, I'd probably put a solid cylinder on the inside, so that way it would keep a strong column the whole way up. and maybe some supports on the outside. I'm not sure. But either way, I mean, 19.5 inches tall, 5.5 to 6 days of printing. This thing is huge. What other things did I print in the last week? So I needed a silverware drawer and a silverware drawer divider. And this thing did a great job. Huge, right? Just, again, I could do 16.5 inches across and however wide my silverware drawer was and print it in one big go and just printed almost flawlessly. There was a little bit of an issue in one corner right here. And I think this is the start and stop corner. And so it ended up lifting off a very small amount. But over the entire rest of the bed, it was fine. Nice quality bottom layer. And then the inside, super clean, very straight, almost no stringing. Super psyched about this. And then I have another thing here for another project. This is a pole saw attachment for a mini snowmobile stick I'm making. And it was able to print the inside geometry great. Bottom wasn't so good. So you can see it had all sorts of weird imperfections here. So that was just a support issue that I need to work on. Plus this is with generic PLA I was having some issues with versus I bet if I did it with PLA Plus, it would have been much, much better. So overall, I'm super psyched. If you want a large format printer, then without going to a Core XY one, this is pretty affordable. Now, you saw what I could do with the quick release attachment, and I'm waiting still in the mail for additional ones of those. So I'm going to have a follow-up video with drilling out larger sizes and making some custom firmware or custom profiles rather for 0.6 and 0.8 nozzles, because 0.4 is kind of tiny for such a large format printer. I'd much rather have a 0.6 nozzle on there. The AMS worked great. Basically, I started this print with an almost empty roll. I had 2 rolls of blue loaded, and basically I didn't even tell what it was. That the RFID chip automatically put it in there. And then it switched over for me, after the first roll ran out, no problem, and just kept going. It was awesome. Programming in what a roll material is, if it doesn't have an RFID chip, super easy. Basically, you just select material and then give it a color, and then that's it. So if you want to fake that you have the same material in there, so it'll keep switching over to a different non-RFID material, it can totally do that. I found it easier than doing it with the bamboo, honestly. And then, that's kind of it. Super easy to set up. The camera location, like I said, is kind of a dumb location. And so I'm just going to fix mount that on a corner that sees everything all the time. And that's going to be a much better solution than on the far side of the gantry. I think that's kind of, I don't know. I don't know if there's a better solution to that or not. Maybe an arm that hangs off in the corner better. But I don't like the solution they got right now. And then I'm going to have a spit bucket for, all of the filament purge. I need to design that up, and I'll post that file as well. So look forward to a follow-up video on basically purge bin, drilling out nozzles, and then basically a profile for those nozzles. And my recommendation, it's pretty cool. I think, honestly, the K2 Max is probably just as good a value, except for the quick release nozzle, right? That is kind of unique. It's really nice not having to connect or disconnect any cables. And overall, that's a huge attraction for me. If I want to quickly switch between a 0.4 and a 0.6, I'm not going to have to disconnect anything. And getting out clogs will be, super easy. Not that it's clogged yet. I haven't had any clogs, but again, who knows in the future. So I think that's all really awesome. Big fan of this massive format printer. And again, if you're going to be printing anything crazy tall, it needs to be stiff. And you need to slow down that bed travel because it will start shaking a lot towards the top, as we saw again with this massive vase that I had printed. And still a beautiful conversation piece. except for this one tiny defect right there, but I can just turn it the other direction and no one will ever see that. So either way, definitely pick it up. You know, it's probably the most affordable large format printer out there with an AMS. Big recommend. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.